some of these quality of life issues, which are separate from the Traffic Commission's work. It's more about enforcement and things like that. So to sum up, we'll do some surveys down there on Washington Street between Monroe and Union, and then maybe through Central Square as well to see what the speeding situation exactly is. And Seth, or if somebody wants to contact me by email, I'll give you my email address, and we can find a time and a place where we can report back with the results on that. And secondly, in here you said that the LPD received a grant to enforce pedestrians and crosswalks. We have in fact applied for a grant. We expect to get it, but it has not been awarded to us yet.
Okay, I apologize. I heard that at last month's meeting.
Yep. We expect to get it, but it hasn't been awarded yet. But when it does get awarded, we'll certainly include the downtown area and some of the pedestrian crosswalk enforcement that we'll engage in.
Okay. On the street sweeping enforcement, JT, I don't know if the signs don't coordinate with the times.
Now, the signage is good.
Yeah, okay.
I would say.
So, if that's the case,
in the last month, we've communicated with the police department on sweeping operation, and they've stepped up enforcement of cars parking at that time. So I think we're in a much better situation than we were when this first was incepted.
And we have refrained on the weekends. It goes back 2 years ago when I was first requesting, we've continued that. But to decide on a particular night whether we are or we're not, and then to communicate it back is just not something that I think that we could, we just couldn't do that.
but we're not sweeping on Saturdays or something.
No, we sat first thing Monday morning at 3 a.m.
Okay. Okay. Some of these other issues are going to, as I said earlier, are going to take some time on the part of this committee to, first of all, go through and gather a lot of information. One of the issues on the signs, and I know you may not like the answer to it, and there may be a need to change some of it, but if a sign just says 2-hour parking, it's just 2-hour parking. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. If the sign says 2-hour parking, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, then, and I think, without saying it, I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're asking that not just to make the signs clearer, but to actually change the ordinances on some of these signs. It's likened to the loading zone issue. The loading zone is a loading zone. I can't park in the loading zone. You can't park in the loading zone. Okay, and I think if I heard you correctly, I think you're addressing the need to change, not physically just the sign, but because I couldn't change it. This one here, for example, it says 2-hour parking. The ordinance is 2-hour parking and it's 7 days a week.
Well, one of the things I put in there somewhere is I said to reflect actual hours of enforcement, because those of us who live and work downtown know that those zones are not enforced overnight, except for the alternate side for street sweeping and on Saturdays and Sundays. If those signs were enforced 24/7, as you suggest, or as you say it may be on the books, we wouldn't have a neighborhood. There'd be no businesses. So I did not anticipate that there might actually be in an ordinance something that says these are 24/7, 1 and 2 hour zones. That thought never crossed my mind because that hasn't been the reality.
Separate the issue, if you will, of enforcement from the signage, okay? Because you can walk down a street, any street, at any time in the city of Lynn, and see a car parked under a sign that says no parking. Now, is that enforceable? Yes, it is. The reality is, it's not gonna happen every time somebody does something like that. And it is a requirement that the ordinances be changed. Maybe not in all instances, but most instances. And I think, again, as you just said with that example, you're looking to have something defined with a time frame in it, okay? And the majority of the signs don't have that.
Right. From what I understand, we can't be out there for more than an hour right now, technically speaking, according to the signs.
Is that out in front of the station?
Correct, according to the signs. Which is, it's a little startling to me because I spent half my life in an urban environment and have been to enough cities and lived in enough parts of Boston where the signage that we have in particular here in downtown Lynn is just unheard of to me in the way that you say it exists. As a 24/7, they can enforce it anytime they want to. They could ticket every car on the correct side of the street on a given night, according to what you've told me. And we would not be here, we would not live here today if they decided to enforce that. A Saturday matinee of an Arts After Hours show would not take place. So, based on what I'm learning here and now, this issue just moved higher up on the priority list. Crosswalks first, then if this takes getting a different ordinance on the books, I think we need to address it right away.
Unfortunately, you're asking for the entire downtown area. Most of what, if not all, of what will be advertised is a specific change, and that's not what we're talking about. One of the things that will need to be done by this committee is to gather a lot of input from community development, EDIC, okay? And in most cases, a traffic study would be warranted.
We just had a traffic study, so I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to bring it up earlier. Apparently we hadn't had one in some time. And the traffic study even looked at changing the directions of some of the streets, making some two-way. That was released in February. Now, this is for, I think, all parties involved, residents, businesses, a frightening proposition because what we assumed was the case because of the reality of enforcement. Forget what's on paper. The reality of enforcement is we generally know we're okay on the street when we get home from work. Overnight, we have to be on the correct side of the street for street sweeping. On Saturdays, we can invite friends up to visit us. We could put on theater performances and stay 2 hours in a 1 hour zone. This has been the reality for years. It's what we're accustomed to, and it's the way the downtown operates. What we're asking it for is for the rules to reflect what is already working and for the signs to indicate the reality. That's what we're asking for. I understand I'm still, I guess flabbergasted is the word, that at some point you're saying some people decided it was okay to indicate these zones as being 24/7, whether or not there were residents here. And there's been residents here for a while if you look at the Harbor Lofts and some of the other buildings. So we're not a newly residential community. Clearly they had to deal with parking long before the Neighborhood Association was even formed. And I certainly would like to talk to some people who know the history of how this came to be, if possible. And just one other point, when I was looking to move here, and this is perhaps why, my realtor was unable to explain to me the parking situation. So it's hard to sell the neighborhood when realtors can't get a clear answer from City Hall. I called City Hall. I could not get a clear answer. I got 3 different answers regarding parking overnight. It was only when I spoke to people who were already living here that I said, okay, I think this can work. And we're going to have new residences coming online at Broad and Silsby. If the project goes through, we're going to have new residents at Market and Andrew Street. And they're going to have the same questions. And their realtors are going to look silly not being able to answer. And we're trying to build and sell this neighborhood for new residents and new businesses right now. And this is making it very difficult.
I think, again, I wasn't one of those individuals that was spoken to, but I think it should be very easy to get an answer as to how things are right now. But I don't think that's what you want. I think you want to see changes to accommodate all of these other changes in the downtown area. And that's something that's going to take a little time. I have not seen this traffic study. It wasn't commissioned by the Traffic Commission.
Correct, but it is public information and a copy is available at City Hall.
Correct, but you would think the Traffic Commission would be well aware of it. And,
Yeah.
And we're not. So that's something that we will take care of in addressing. And I will pass everything on to Kevin. And I would suggest that, as I said earlier, the most important thing to make sure none of this stuff slides any longer than it has to is that you maintain a dialogue with him as the chairman. So, I mean, obviously there are enough people here. They're real issues and they need to be addressed, and we don't have all of the answers right now. And I'm not pretending that we do. So, thank you all for coming.
We just have
Can I ask one last question?
Yeah.
Based on what you guys have heard or read, are you in support of what we're asking for in terms of changes, even those things that are outside of your specific domain?
I don't, the things that are on here are short of, enforcement issues.
I understand.
The
Parking
things that we can take care of. It's all, and there's another factor in here that is not in our purview, okay, and that's off-street parking. And they go hand in hand. You cannot, I mean, the basic theory behind on-street parking is that it's for short-term parking, and off-street parking basically is for longer-term parking. Now, when you throw in a business district the issue of residents, and the zoning doesn't have a requirement for housing in the downtown area to have parking like in other sections of the city, it creates issues,
We're well,
and they need to be addressed.
we're well aware of that, and there are many mixed-use developments throughout.
S-E-A-M,
Sorry.
Lobdell,
I'm sorry.
L-O-B-D-E-L-L, 13 Willow Street, apartment 206.
That's
There are many mixed-use developments throughout the Commonwealth that deal with this in a variety of ways. So I don't think we have to reinvent the whole wheel here. And we think there are things in play that are working. And tonight I learned, well, that's not actually how they are. Now we have gone, to your point, we have gone before the off-street parking. In fact, we did that before coming here. And I think what we're talking about with off-street parking is in concert with what we're talking about with on-street parking. But we really need both to work. And though ordinances may need to be changed, I don't think that these are drastic changes when you consider the day-to-day reality of the street. It's not drastically different to put the days and times on the signs when those are the days and times that people are already accustomed to, regardless of what it may say in an official document somewhere, which I would love to see. I've never seen it. I know it's public information. But though the list may seem long, some of them are very obvious and very common recommendations that you just see everywhere driving around the state. The only thing that might be a little bit novel is the 15-minute zone on Monroe Street. That's a little bit different. But having a commercial loading zone for Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday, that's common. Having a 1 or 2 hour parking zone that's in effect weekdays until a certain time, that's common. And I mean, I think, and elsewhere in Lynn, you'll see that. This is what we have now is unusual. And I think what we're asking for is the norm.
May I ask
Thank
a
you.
question? Sorry, Mr. Fenton, may I ask a question?
Yep.
If you recall, about 2005, yourself, Ms. Wright, Sean Liddell, and myself were all pinned up in with Lynn City of Commerce, actually, Chamber of Commerce, actually discussing the novel parking situation we had here in downtown at the time. This was before Seth's arrival at 7th Central. And we actually discussed some of the same subject matter. It's now 2014. I'm sorry, I'm a former veteran. I'm very result-oriented, and I think I can speak for most of my downtown comrades that we are also very remote, result-oriented. We came here not just with complaints, about possible solutions. So the big question I have in the forefront of my mind is, what is the next step to make our dreams, to make this downtown, which is our home, a nice place to live? What's the next step for us as far as doing what is necessary in order to get the parking hours that we need? I believe you said there was an ordinance change and things of that matter.
Yes, that's correct. The only thing I can tell you with certainty right now tonight is that we've addressed some of these. The others are more complicated, unfortunately, than example of loading zones. We just can't go change a blanket loading zone saying Monday through Friday, okay? Each one is gonna have to be looked at for where it's at, why it's there. We may find some existing loading zones not even necessary, okay? So that process needs to take place, and that's why I suggested that Seth, as a representative, maintain the dialogue with the chairman to make sure that these issues are in fact moving along. I don't know if that answers, but I remember that meeting well.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
interesting.
remember the picture of the no parking sign. And I think my comment then and my comment today is, if it says no parking, it's no parking. And I would agree with you that if the intent were to be no parking Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, then in fact, that's what the sign should say.
Some questions?
You didn't answer my question. Are you in support of what we're recommending?
That's a,
In general,
basically, yes.
is there anything
But
specifically you're not in support of?
Pardon me?
Is there anything specifically you're not in support of?
I would support the theory of what you're intending here. I can't sit here and tell you that I support specific changes. If there's a loading zone that requires, because of businesses, the availability, that they get deliveries at certain times, I'm not going to advocate that we change the loading zone and say 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Okay? So it's very difficult to say, when we get down to the specifics, that, yes, I'm in 100% support of everything that you're doing.
For the loading zones, I was really thinking is 6 or 7 a.m. to you know, because I live above a Dunkin' Donuts, I know when their deliveries come. I don't think, like I said before, we don't want to hurt the businesses, and we need them to thrive, and we patronize these businesses, and we're friendly with them. And I think you'll find that in this initiative, because I did reach out to the Lynn Area Chamber of Commerce, and it's my fault for not getting any letters from them. I didn't ask. But I think you'll find that a lot of businesses will be on board with this as we move forward, because they're suffering from the signs that don't specify the times and days they're in effect as well as we are. And they're suffering from the safety issues and the unpainted crosswalks and the zone parking. So we're kind of in the same boat in this neighborhood, whether we live or work here or both.
Excuse me, Seth. I won't read it now, but I actually have an email from Matt and Joanna O'Neill at the Blue Ox in favor of everything that we're proposing, with the exception of resident on-street parking. Obviously on Oxford Street, that would conflict with their business. But the signage has been an issue for them. It still is an issue for them. They constantly have customers coming in saying, can we, who haven't been here, can we park here? It says 2 hours, are we gonna get a ticket? They're constantly having to reassure people on Oxford Street that it's okay to park there. So the Blue Ox is a good example of a business that would be in support of all of this.
Have you named the address?
My name and address, Soraya Kasisi, 13, it's Soraya Cacici, and my address is 13 Willow Street.
Good.
There's one area that I would like to point out where I'd love to make a no parking area. It's right in front of where Cal's news stand is when you go around the corner coming up this street. There's so many times I have to go around the truck and almost get hit head on because trying to go around.
That corner.
Oh, yeah.
should be no
It's really
parking.
dangerous.
I mean, Cal's is awesome, but that place is a death trap, that's fine.
Yeah.
If I can just interject, that was also mentioned by the, my name is Mike Crowns, Crounse, and I'm at 54 Central Square, Unit 4A, and I came in late, I'm sorry, but if I missed something. But that corner was also addressed when they had the parking study done by VHB that was presented at the City Council about a month ago. They mentioned making a couple of spots no parking in front of Cal's or just loading zone for that purpose, because that's a choke point for cars coming around the corner. And I'm sure the police department knows about that area very well, because it's right down the road. I'm going to probably rehash a couple of things just in support. I think some of the major issues, not the loading, but the major issues for me is the 1 and 2 hour parking, is just the enforcement of, except Sundays or except Saturdays and Sundays. Because as a resident with people coming to visit us, and also being involved in downtown and being involved with other organizations that are doing events, we have people come to our events that say, do I have to leave halfway through the event to move my vehicle? Now, if it was Monday at 2 o'clock, I would say yes. But if it's after 4 or if it's Saturday or Sunday, we have to tell people no, they don't ticket on Saturdays and Sundays. And just the zone issue, I guess it depends on who you talk to and which person's ticketing you, because I've been down here for 8 years. I've been unemployed at a couple of those instances, and I haven't parked in the lot. I've had to move my car every couple hours. Somehow, once I figured it out, I have avoided getting a ticket for 2 or 3 years by moving it to the right spot within the downtown business district, but 2 or 3 streets over. And it seems to lucky me, it's been working out great. I don't having people move 1 spot or 2 spots, I can, what? Having people move 1 or 2 spots over, I can see, that's obviously, you don't want to do that. But just, I guess it's making it more apparent to people that are visiting our downtown as we move forward with more businesses coming in, with more with the cultural district and other things going on. Having people know, oh, it's except Saturdays and Sundays, or it's 8 to 4. And just one other example would be street sweeping. When Manny was the interim, he said street sweeping doesn't happen from the first snowfall to when no snow's on the ground. Then when he left, the JT Gouch said, going back to what's on the books, it's year-round, except for, you know, when there's a lot of snow on the ground. But then all of a sudden there's a sign saying street sweeping now enforced April 7th. So between March and April, they weren't doing it, but nobody knew because we thought it was now year-round. So just as long as it's on the books, or if it's changing, just so everybody knows what's happening. I think the big thing is just communication and getting the right notification on the signs going forward. Those will be my suggestions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. Second? Second. All those in favor?